News This Week. Here are Hugh Keaton and Bill Snyder.
This week in Biloxi, a community meeting on school choice.
Speakers included Biloxi Superintendent Marcus Boudreaux.
And we welcome him to the show this morning. Thanks for coming by. And this is a hot topic going into this state legislative session this year. There's a lot of pressure being put on some sort of a bill to come through the legislature. You've become sort of a spokesperson for the issue. You've spoken at the Capitol, I believe, and took part in this community meeting this week. Why is it an issue you're passionate about?
Well, I mean, number one, I don't think it's in the best interest of the children in the state of Mississippi. So I'm very much not in support of school choice for two reasons. So if you know anything about school choice, it's really kind of two components to it. One of those is public money going to private schools. The second is public to public school transfers. So for me, one of the most frustrating things about school choice is Mississippi right now is one of the leaders in education in the United States of America. Right now, you know, everybody remembers the old adage of, oh, thank goodness for Mississippi, because we always ranked 49th or 50th. We're not there anymore. You know, in the last decade, Mississippi has had the Mississippi Miracle, and we've been on the rise all across the nation. People are coming to us to see what we are doing in education because we're doing so well. We're one of the only states that's on an upward trajectory of growth when it comes to student performance. Just this last year in fourth grade NAEP scores, we were number one in the nation in growth in fourth grade NAEP scores, and that's just amazing. Kids count data last year, we were number 16 in the nation. We were number 49 just a decade ago. So we're making huge strides, and it's really frustrating to think of derailing an entire education system over school choice whenever we're one of the only states that are really, you know, debunking that theory right now.
Yeah, you were saying, Marcus, also too, one of the points you brought up in the meeting about the funding there. We have, at least here on the coast, a big part of that as far as education goes, casinos and also highway funds. That's just some of it, but a lot of that is really part of why our school systems now here are financially stable, and that could be an issue too, right?
Correct. I don't think many people realize how deep the local tax implications are when it comes to school choice. So to give you some quick examples, in the Biloxi School District, for example, we assess 45.25 mills to our taxpayers, and that's how much they pay towards local education dollars. Right next door in Gulfport, they're assessing 61.5. Over in Ocean Springs, they're assessing 65 mills. In Long Beach, they're assessing 65 mills. So things aren't equitable. And I don't think what a lot of people realize either is when it comes to your local taxes, a mill varies from community to community. So for example, in Biloxi, the value of one mill is $655,000. In Long Beach, it's $163,000. So our local taxes that are going towards local education, I really think that we should think about the inequities when that money doesn't follow those students. You could essentially live in one area, pay lower property taxes, but send your child to another area that may value education more, and their local taxpayers are willing to pay more.
And is that part of the proposal out there, that you could do that? Like you said, live in an area, pay lower taxes, and go to a better school district somewhere else?
So when it comes to school choice, the only money that would follow the students is the state dollars. The state dollars are about $6,842 per student this year. Well, Biloxi, for example, we spend about $12,500 per student to educate just the average student. So that means local taxpayers are subsidizing about $5,700 for every student's education. If you move on to students that have a disability, we pay about $21,000 on average per student with disability, and of that, 47% of that comes from local taxpayers. So to know that local taxpayers have to put in that much of a contribution to pay towards their students, it's not very equitable for someone to be able to go from one public school to another.
You also talked about how Mississippi has come so far statewide with education and grades with school districts. You were saying, you told us a stat before we came on the air here about how those numbers have gone up, and some of the school choice proponents basically saying, hey, we don't want to be in a failing school district. You were saying there's really not that many of them as far as the numbers go.
There's not. So right now, 94% of Mississippi school districts are rated A, B, or C. 38% are A's, 30% are B's, and 26% are C's. 4% are D's, 2% are F's. So you're talking about a very minimal number of school districts that actually have a failing or a D-rated school system. So why derail an entire public education system that's finding so much success?
Where does private schools fall in this? There is some talk that some of the tax money would be filtered to private schools if students chose that route. Is that even feasible?
That's the one that really bothers me the most. I truly believe that public dollars belong with public entities because public entities are held accountable for public dollars. The most frustrating component about school choice is if public dollars go to private schools don't have to follow the same rules that public schools do. For example, we have to enroll every single student. Regardless of who that student is, regardless of what their needs are, we have to find a way to meet their needs. We have to provide them with what's called a FAPE, a free and appropriate public education. We have to abide by non-discrimination laws, IDEA special education laws. We have to have state accountability, state assessments. We have to publish our scores every year. We're held to such a high standard. We have to go through fiscal audits to make sure that we're following state purchasing and procurement laws. Private schools are not going to have to do any of that, but they would get the exact same money. And in addition, right now there's about 52,000 private school students in the state of Mississippi. If you gave all of them that $6,842 voucher, that's $355 million new dollars that Mississippi would have to come up with out of the budget.
Or cut out of the public school budget.
Cut out of the public school budget just to pay for the 52,000 existing students that are already in private school. So if we got that money, I don't know why we're not using it somewhere else.
Right, it all comes down to the money. You talked about this this week at that meeting. You're going to be talking a lot more, I'm sure, coming up in January, back and forth to Capitol. How do you kind of see this playing out? Of course, you're hoping it fails eventually, being basically against this issue, but you've seen the trends. What are you seeing down the road here?
So what my hopes are and what I ask every constituent to do is to please do your own research. Go out, listen to some speakers, go get on the internet, find your own research, and look at how this is going to impact you and your local school system, and reach out to your local legislator. All of us have representatives in the House and the Senate, and they need our voice in order to represent us properly at the state capitol. So I encourage everyone to please go out and do that.
And we will see different proposals come out through the process. So what we're talking about now, it might look completely different.
And that's absolutely correct. We have yet to see a bill. So it's really hard to have this debate when no bill actually exists.
Right. We'll be watching it, though, and a lot of other people will. Marcus Boudreaux, Superintendent of Schools
Thank you.
in Biloxi. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate y'all.
Absolutely.